So I've realised that I haven't actually put a video online yet of one of my key, like, cornerstones, I guess, of what I believe, and that is the phrase that me and a very, very, very good friend of mine, Matt Lahane, also known as Shinzou, came up with, and that is, you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore. So I should explain it. Essentially, it's a multi-leveled key, I suppose, to understanding why we do what we do and what it is that we do. So on the surface, you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore says two things. One, that you're pretending, and two, that you're pretending it's a story. So what is it that you're doing by, what is the story that you're making up? What is that? So you're pretending it's a story. What do you mean by it? What do I mean by it? And we'll get into that more in a second. But basically, so on the surface, you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore. So, as I say, those two things suggest instantly that we're all acting, essentially, and that is the surface of the idea, the first lock for the key. So it's an important thing to understand, because once we understand that we are actually pretending, and what it is that we are pretending, then we can start to break down what it is that we are. We can start to move beyond the things that control us, and we can move into the realm of the things we want to control. So most of the time, what we are pretending is that we are unafraid, is that we are confident, is that we are happy. I mean, how many times has somebody said, "How are you?" and you're just like, "Oh yeah, fine." When inside, we have like this problem, this fear, that fear. We're thinking in our head about what we're going to do tomorrow, and we're worried about this, that, and the other. So we lie all the time, both to ourselves and to everyone else. We put on masks, as there's heaps of literature about this sort of thing. I'm not going to delve too far into what we already know, basically, but we are playing a part. We play a role. We choose who it is we want to try and come across as, but we can't choose who we are inside. And so we're desperate to cover up our weaknesses with these masks. So the surface is, we are all pretending, we are all hiding, and you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to pretend it's a story anymore. Alright? So by saying it's a story, I mean you're an actor in a play. This world is this reality, we haven't quite grasped it properly, and we're kind of looking at it from an abstract point of view, in which we are players on a stage, and what we do matters to everyone else on the level that it matters what they think. So in terms of, okay, we need to look good, we need to seem intelligent, we need to seem courageous, all of these things like matter to an actor on a stage, but they shouldn't matter to us, our soul, who we really are. So you've got level one right there. The world is a stage. You are playing a part, and you have been playing a part all the way through your life, really. I mean, as a kid, you weren't playing a part. As a kid, you were learning your part and how to play it. But originally, as a baby, as a very young child, you are understanding the world, and that's not playing a part. That is just questing for knowledge. All right, but somewhere along the way during childhood, we all become embroiled in this false self, this part that we feel we should be playing, and we forget the real goal of being alive, which is manyfold, and I've spoken about that in other videos, but basically, like, I reckon it's like experience. Essentially, if you condense it down into one word, it's experience. The experience of being real. Anyway, so we've got this at the top, and we're all doing it. We've all been doing it, and some people have started not to do it. I'm not saying things, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm just saying. So level 2, or again, levels imply like a hierarchy, but you know, the second step, I suppose, or the step which follows after the first is, okay, so you now know, or you accept that we have been duped into thinking that what matters, we've been duped into thinking that what they've told us what matters, but actually it's not, because all of that bullshit is simply acting, and no amount of acting will ever change who we are inside. You know, we can try and change our beliefs and try and become this other person, but it's not going to alter the formula of who we are. It's simply going to change this mask. And then, yeah, okay, the mask becomes easier to wear and harder to remove, but we are still who we are underneath. So the second interpretation of you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore is, okay, so now you know about that, you don't have to do it anymore. And what that means, obviously, is that you no longer have to wear this mask. You're free. You're unburdened of this alter ego. And you can truly start being yourself. And that's a fantastic thing to experience and to work towards and to go through, because it's, as many writers have said about it, it's ego death. Yeah, it's the death of the false you. And it is a death. It's a death and a rebirth, because you throw that away and then we realize who we really are. We realize what it is we really want, not these false things that we're told we want. When we throw aside the mask and we live the tenet of truth, then we can be truthful with ourselves, and we can start to explore what it is that we want and what motivates us and who we really are. I mean, it's fraught with pain, and it takes a long time. And it maybe will continue our entire lives, and so be it. If that's what it is, if that is our experience of life, then it's, you know, all experience is simply experience, and it's neither more or less than any other experience. But at least it's better than living with a false mask on your whole life. Yes, it's still an experience, that life with a mask on, but it is not an experience that is entirely truthful. And I'm not saying any experience can be, but at least throwing off the mask, revealing your true self naked to the, you know, breeze is far more truthful than not. So that's the next footstep that we can make with this this statement, that you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore. Time to shed it. And that is a really great thing when that happens. But there is more. The third step that I've realized from that is that it goes full circle once again. So once one has broken free from the constraints of masking and boxing one's world, and we can see then infinite possibility, and we can realize that we don't have to be what we thought we did have to be. We can start to understand that actually the world is a story. The whole world is a story. And then what you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore becomes is that actually you're no longer pretending that the world is a story anymore, that it's a story anymore, because you know it's a story. By that I mean you're no longer acting. You're watching, you're observing, you're allowing the story to manifest around you, and you're also realizing that it's a story and that it therefore can be controlled by you, and that the things you do, even though it's just a story, it still matters. So that's what I meant by limitless possibility, because once we realize a story, once we realize we're living in a story, and I don't mean a story as in, you know, it's a written book and it is straightforward and it's been foretold, so to speak. I mean a story that is being told right now, and a story that can change all the time, but it's a story nonetheless. A story in that this is not the only reality. It's a way to describe reality. This is not an end for us. I mean, if you imagine that it's an end for us, then it's a completely nihilistic existence. Then why are we even concerned with watching this? Why do we not just keep those masks on and be done with it? Why do we feel this void inside us that's crawling constantly to get us to do and experience and try, even though like we don't want to half the time? Why is this abstract notion of right and wrong inside us if there is nothing beyond this? I mean, if there's nothing beyond this, then we might as well just go out and enact our deepest fantasies without any empathy for anyone, because none of it really matters. It's a story, but it matters. It's a story in that we can have whatever we want. It's a story in that it doesn't matter what we do, but what we do matters because it changes the story. And this links to one of my other most favorite linguistic premises of being, which is surrender the future. Like, when we understand that this world is a story, and we don't have to pretend that it's a story anymore, we just accept it for being a story, then we can enjoy it and we can give up control, because a story can go anywhere and it doesn't matter where it goes, because it's still a story, and it's your story and my story and everyone's story. And when we realize that it doesn't matter and it's a story, and we can surrender the control of this story and we can just enjoy it for the story that it is, that's when we can start to really do anything, basically. I mean, what do I want to do? Well, that's a whole nother video, but yeah, this, I'm trying to keep this down to just what the title is, and that is, you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore. And I think that's probably enough now. I mean, there may well be more levels to it, and honestly, each time I read or looked at the sentence, you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore, and I realized that I understood it in a different way, so once, twice, 3 times, it was like an epiphany for me. It was just like the opposite of when my dreams in my head died and I felt like a bubble had burst and what was left was just void. It was like a bubble had burst and what was left was like shining stars everywhere, you know? It was like, wow, this is the same sentence, but now I'm seeing it in a totally different light. And the story behind the discovering of you don't have to pretend it's a story anymore was me and Matt were very high in my van in Amsterdam. But just because we were on drugs then, it doesn't make it any less viable. Because now I am totally teetotal. I haven't smoked in 6 months. and I will not smoke until I'm an old man, maybe never. I don't drink anymore. I'm pretty much celibate. Um, I'm not a puppet of greed anymore, or at least I fight it. There's many things. There's many things that I've gone through since being high in Amsterdam and coming up with Matt with this phrase, and I still feel that this phrase really does sum up for many things what's going on. And yeah, so I really hope that more people will hear this phrase and it will give them some insight. It will maybe or some pleasure or anything. But yeah, I just want to put that out there. So enjoy, and as always, have a fantastic life experience and whatever you do, and lots of love.